Hey, level casters. Today's lesson takes us on a thrilling journey back in time to a period of great change and upheaval, the French Revolution. Imagine a country where most people were very poor and hungry, while a few rich people lived in luxury. This was France in the late 1700s. For centuries, France had been ruled by kings and queens who believed they had a divine right to rule, meaning God had chosen them. The common people, known as the Third Estate, had very few rights and carried most of the country's burdens. They paid almost all the taxes, while the nobility and the clergy, the First and Second Estates, paid almost nothing and enjoyed many privileges. Life for the average French person was hard. They often worked long hours for little pay, and food was expensive. Bread, a basic necessity, was sometimes so costly that families couldn't afford it. The government was also deeply in debt, partly because of expensive wars, like supporting the American Revolution against Great Britain. King Louis XVI and his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, lived in incredible splendor at the Palace of Versailles, seemingly unaware of the suffering outside their gates. Marie Antoinette, in particular, was known for her extravagant lifestyle and expensive tastes, which made her very unpopular. There were also new ideas spreading across Europe, ideas about liberty, equality, and fraternity, freedom, fairness, and brotherhood. Philosophers like Rousseau and Montesquieu wrote about people's rights and how governments should serve the people, not just a king. These ideas inspired many French citizens to question the old ways and dream of a fairer society. The stage was set for a massive change, a revolution that would shake not only France but the entire world. People were getting restless, and the air was thick with tension. They wanted a voice, they wanted justice, and they wanted a better life. This simmering discontent would soon boil over, leading to one of the most significant events in modern history. The spark that lit the fuse of the revolution came in 1789. King Louis XVI, facing a severe financial crisis, decided to call a meeting of the Estates General. This was an assembly representing the three estates: the clergy, the nobility, and the common people, and it hadn't met for over 175 years. The king hoped they would approve new taxes. However, the Third Estate, representing the vast majority of the population, felt completely ignored. They had more representatives than the other two estates combined, but each estate voted as a bloc, meaning the First and Second Estates could always outvote them. This was deeply unfair. On June 20, 1789, members of the Third Estate took a daring step. They gathered at a tennis court nearby and swore an oath not to quit until they had written a new constitution for France. This became known as the Tennis Court Oath, a powerful symbol of their determination. Just a few weeks later, on July 14, an even more dramatic event occurred: the storming of the Bastille. The Bastille was an old fortress used as a prison, a symbol of the king's oppressive rule. An angry mob attacked it, seeking weapons and gunpowder. This act of defiance, though it freed only a few prisoners, showed that the people were no longer afraid of the king's authority. It was a clear sign that the revolution had truly begun. News of these events spread like wildfire, and soon, unrest erupted across the country. Peasants attacked the homes of nobles, demanding an end to feudalism, the old system where they were tied to the land and owed services to their landlords. The National Assembly, formed by the Third Estate, quickly moved to dismantle the old system. They abolished feudal rights and privileges and, in August 1789, issued the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This document proclaimed that all men are born free and equal in rights, and it laid out principles of liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. It was a revolutionary statement, inspired by Enlightenment ideas and the American Declaration of Independence. The monarchy's power was crumbling, and a new era for France was beginning, but not without further struggles and bloodshed. The revolution continued to gather pace, but it also became much more radical and violent. The early years saw the establishment of a constitutional monarchy, where the king's power was limited. However, many revolutionaries felt this wasn't enough. They wanted a republic, a country without a king. King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette tried to escape France in 1791, hoping to rally support from other European monarchs, but they were caught and brought back to Paris. This attempt to flee further eroded public trust and solidified the idea that the monarchy could not be reformed. Other European countries, fearing the spread of revolutionary ideas, began to threaten France. This led to wars, which further fueled the revolutionary fervor and suspicion of anyone perceived as an enemy of the revolution. In 1792, the monarchy was officially abolished, and France was declared a republic. The king was put on trial for treason and, in January 1793, was executed by guillotine, a new, humane, method of execution. Marie Antoinette followed him to the guillotine later that year. This period, from 1793 to 1794, became known as the Reign of Terror. Led by Maximilien Robespierre and the radical Jacobin Party, the government became extremely paranoid. Anyone suspected of being an enemy of the revolution, nobles, clergy, or even ordinary citizens who seemed disloyal could be arrested, tried by revolutionary tribunals, and quickly executed. Thousands of people were guillotined in public squares. Robespierre believed that terror was necessary to protect the revolution from its enemies, both inside and outside France. He wanted to create a republic of virtue, a society based on reason and patriotism. However, the Reign of Terror eventually turned on itself. Even some revolutionaries began to fear for their own lives. In July 1794, Robespierre himself was overthrown and, ironically, sent to the guillotine. His death marked the end of the most extreme phase of the revolution, leaving France exhausted and in search of stability after years of turmoil and bloodshed. After the Reign of Terror, France entered a period of instability. The government was weak, and there was still much political unrest. People were tired of the constant change and violence. This created an opportunity for a powerful military leader to emerge. That leader was Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1799, Napoleon staged a coup d'état, taking control of the government. He promised to bring order and stability back to France, and many people welcomed him. Although he eventually crowned himself emperor, effectively ending the republic, Napoleon preserved many of the revolutionary ideals. He introduced a new legal system, the Napoleonic Code, which established equality before the law for men, protected property rights, and abolished feudal privileges. He also reformed education and established a national bank. Napoleon's rise and reign marked the end of the French Revolution itself, but its impact was profound and long-lasting, not just for France but for the whole world. The revolution fundamentally changed the political landscape of Europe. It challenged the absolute power of monarchs and the traditional social order. It spread the ideas of liberty, equality, and national identity far beyond France's borders, inspiring other revolutions and nationalist movements throughout the 19th century. Although it was a period of extreme violence and political upheaval, the French Revolution laid the groundwork for modern democratic states. It showed that common people could overthrow an oppressive regime and demand their rights. It gave birth to concepts like human rights, citizenship, and the idea that governments should derive their power from the people they govern. The tricolor flag, the national anthem, La Marseillaise, and the national motto, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, are all enduring symbols of this pivotal moment in history. The French Revolution was a complex and often brutal event, but its legacy continues to shape our understanding of freedom, justice, and the power of the people.
That was a fascinating story.
Yes, the French Revolution was a huge event.
I can't imagine living through those times.
It sounds very chaotic and dangerous.
The poor people really suffered a lot.
They wanted fairness and freedom.
The tennis court oath was a brave act.
Yes, they were very determined.
The storming of the Bastille was a turning point.
It showed the king their power.
The Declaration of the Rights of Man was so important.
It gave everyone new rights.
The Reign of Terror sounds terrifying.
Many people lost their lives then,
Robespierre thought it was necessary.
but it went too far in the end.
Napoleon brought some stability.
He changed France a lot.
The revolution's ideas spread worldwide.
They still influence us today.
That was a great lesson.
I agree. Keep learning, Levelcasters.
That's all for today. Keep it up, and we'll see you in the next Levelcast lesson.